All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Jamie Green, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Destiny podcast. Um, as you know, Let's Talk Destiny podcast is a purpose driven format where we like to discuss purpose. We like to remind everyone that they were born with purpose. And we like to always just leave people uplifted and encouraged. This month, we have chosen as our theme the father daughter relationship. And those of you that know me personally know that I am like the epitome of a daddy's girl. Always have been, probably always will be, even though my father's no longer here with us in the physical realm. So this month, I wanted to speak with some fathers about their relationships with their daughters and how important that bond is. And so tonight, I am excited to have a guest with me. I'm so sorry, people. Brother Tarryl Rosier. Is that how you pronounce your name?
That's exactly how you pronounce it, Tarryl. Yes.
I should have asked that before we went live, huh?
Yeah.
But but tonight I wanted to talk to um, this young man about the bond that he has with his daughters. Now, first of all, how many daughters do you have?
I just have one daughter.
One daughter, and what is her first name?
Her first name is Faith.
Faith. Wow, that's a powerful name. Something to always live up to is to walk
Yes.
in faith, right? All right. So my
Amen.
first, yes, indeed. So my first question is, what does the father-daughter bond mean to you personally?
Oh, it means everything to me. Father-daughter bond. It means everything. It means, first of all, I feel that a father towards a daughter, um, the father should be the daughter's first love in life. Before she could love a boyfriend, a husband, or anybody. I think that a father should be the daughter's first love. The father daughter dynamic is everything to me. Like I said, especially a great one where the father is a good teacher, a good provider, and a person and a good role model that the daughter could look at and a source of strength. I think that a father towards a daughter should be the source of strength and the source of how a woman should be treated when she gets of age to like boys or to date or to go out in the world. So that's just how I feel about the father daughter dynamic.
I absolutely agree. My sister, I have one. I had two sisters. One of them has transitioned, but my youngest sister and I always joke about how every relationship that we got into, we measured these men by our father. Um,
Right,
and it's just certain things that we just felt like we were owed, that we expected to be, to be respected, to be cherished, and to be valued because our father always made us feel that way. And so I
right.
think I totally agree with you that your daughter, you are the first male that your daughter encounters. And so that relationship is extremely, extremely important. How do you think that fathers and daughters communicate differently than fathers and sons?
Well, I'm gonna base it on my experience because I have a daughter and a son.
Okay.
And my son is the oldest, so I'm basing it on my experience. What I discuss with my son are more stuff that I understand as a man, or how to carry myself as a man, and what he should look for, in manhood. Now, towards my daughter, what I do is show her the kind of love that a man is supposed to show her, is supposed to show a woman. And what I do is I show first one example is how I treat my wife, her mother. If she sees that how I treat my wife, she's gonna know how a man is supposed to treat her when she finds that special someone to like, or to be in a serious relationship with. And I try to set the standard for her, and what to look for in a guy. Um, and that's just based on my experience dealing with, raising a daughter. And
Yes.
also treat her with respect, treat her with the utmost respect, treat her with love. And ever since she was a little girl, before she went up to college, when she was ever since she was a little girl, I used to date my daughter. Take her to places like we will go out and have lunch or go out to dinner. Whenever father daughter dances used to be at the school, um, I we would go every year while she was at school, and we'll go out, dress up, and I show her how it is to be treated by a man, how a man is supposed to treat you when you get of age. Because when she gets of age, right, like right now, she's 22 years old, so she knows automatically, if you can't treat me as good or better than my dad, then I don't need to be with you. That's the kind of stuff that I try to ingrain in her as she was growing up. Just to show her show her a positive example of how a man is supposed to treat a woman.
I love it. I love it. And that's definitely what we saw from our dad. He was not the most affectionate person, but he was a protector. He was a provider. We did not even think that if anything would happen to us, that daddy couldn't take care of it.
Right.
I was joking with someone the other day. They asked me, did I hear the thunderstorm? And I was like, no, I didn't hear anything. I'm just kind of, once I go to sleep, I'm asleep. And I said, I remember even as a child, um, where we lived, a, I think it was a gas tank, some kind of a tank blew up right behind, not too far from where we lived. And I slept through the whole thing. And so when they asked me, how do you sleep like that? And I said, because I knew my daddy was in the house. As a
Right.
child, I just got used to, if I go to sleep and daddy's at home, that I don't have anything to worry about. And so I
Right.
just kind of grew up, of course, as you get older, circumstances change. But there's that bond and there's that foundation that I had built in my mind and in my heart, that if my daddy's around, nothing bad is going to happen to me. And so, I just still feel that way, even on a spiritual level. There are days when I'm going through some things and I'm like, I wish I could speak to my dad right now. And then
Right.
I'll hear in my mind, I'll hear a sermon that he preached or some words of wisdom that he gave. And I can move on, to the next thing. So my next question for you is, what are some common challenges that fathers and daughter relationships face, and how do you feel that they can be overcome?
Okay, well, I would say that one challenge would be a father giving their daughter the sex talk, or what to look for, um or what to do or what not to do when that daughter engages in that activity for the first time. That's a challenge to a lot of men. Now,
Yeah.
the one thing that a father should be to a daughter is to be real. You have to be real. Don't sugarcoat it. Tell the truth. Um, and one thing I learned about raising a son and raising a daughter, raising both sexes, is you can't have a sense of favoritism when you're dealing with both sexes. Like, for example, when you're raising a son, a lot of dads will say, "Yeah, son, yeah, yeah, you seeing girls, yeah, 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 yeah." But with a daughter, you are protective over, like, hey, okay, I want to know who you dealing with, or no boy's gonna get near my daughter. You kind of can't do that. You can't do that. You got to treat them both fairly, and that's what I did with my kids. Where when I noticed that my son was liking girls, I talked to him about that. But I didn't tell him, hey, go for the gusto. No, I just told him, listen. you treat any young lady the same way that you would treat your mother. And my son loves his mother very much, and he sees how I treat his mother every day for years. And I tell that same thing to my daughter. I tell my daughter, hey, um, you know, be cognizant and be careful on who you're dealing with because boys will try this, boys will try that. I'm telling you from experience because I was one of those boys that used to try. They used to try, girls, and I knew friends that used to do that to girls. So I was real with her and told her, "But this is what you need to look out for." And I told, like, just like I tell my son about certain girls, this is what you need to look out for, so you won't be taken
Right.
advantage of. So
Right.
I had to treat them the same way. I had to treat both of them fair, and I didn't favor one over the other. So that's to me, that's one challenge that a lot of men have with their daughters is to be afraid to tell them the truth, especially about about sex or liking boys, because girls are just like boys. They're gonna get to the age where they're gonna get curious about the other sex, and
Right. Right.
a lot of fathers. I noticed that a lot of fathers do have their obstacles. So the best way to combat that is just be real. Don't sugarcoat it. Let your daughter know that you're on her side. Just be real.
I love it. And and as I was thinking as you were talking, there are so many there are different parenting styles, right? Like some fathers are very stern and very strict when it comes to their daughters. Like she can hardly be out of his sight for anything, especially those who are raised in the church. I knew growing up, both of my parents are preachers, and we grew up in a strict holiness home, and I just like felt like my God, I can't even breathe. Like we couldn't do anything or go anywhere unless it was church related. And so I said when I graduated from high school, I was never going to church ever again in my life. But God had a different plan. But I think what you said is so wise and is so important because your daughter, you want to protect her, you want to, um, have her miss out on as much drama and trauma in life as possible. But there are just certain things that you can't stop from happening because it's a part of the life cycle. But I
Right.
think what you said is so important that your daughters understand that no matter what happens, my daddy's here. I can talk to my dad. I don't have to lie to him. I'm saying that we don't lie because sometimes we do growing up, but I
Right.
don't have to because even times when I know I've done things that I felt like disappointed my dad, um, he still never turned his back on me. Even when
Right.
the other people in the church, I remember when I got pregnant with my oldest son, I wasn't married, and some of the church people, as my father was, the bishop at the time, and boy, they dogged me out like crazy. And I remember when I found out I was pregnant, the only person I was afraid to talk to about it was my dad because I felt like I just had let him down and I was a failure and all these things that other people were saying to me. And when I did finally get up the nerve to tell him, his response was, well, I'm disappointed because I wanted you to finish school because I was in college at the time. He said, but you're not the first one and you won't be the last one. And he gave me a hug, and that was the end of that. And it was that again reminding me of the bond that we had, um, where I didn't have to be afraid. I was allowing other people's opinions to make me afraid to talk to him. But once I went to him, it was nowhere near as bad as I had in my mind it was going to be. So I can tell that you have built that foundation and that type of relationship with your daughter that she can come to you about anything. So how do
Yeah.
you feel? How important is it for fathers, not just you, but for fathers in general, to empower their daughters, to encourage them to pursue their passion and achieve their goals? How important is that?
Oh, it's very important. It is very important because it's sad that we live in a day and age. We live in a day and age right now where I feel that a lot of young ladies out here are lost. It's because there aren't a lot of good, strong, foundational fathers in the home or in little girls' lives. I see it all the time, and that's one of my prayers in life. Is there needs to be strong. There needs to be more fathers involved in their daughters' lives, and it's very impactful because, like I said earlier, a good, strong father um, is very impactful, especially to show a young lady how to be treated or how she should conduct herself, or what to look for in a mate, or how to handle situations dealing with certain guys. It's very impactful. And going back to your story about what you went through as a young lady, my heart goes out for you, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. But I feel that a lot of fathers, great fathers, need to be like our spiritual father, who loves us no matter what, and no matter what we go through, whether good or bad, especially the bad stuff. Well, whether we think is bad, he gives us grace. He forgives us.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, and I think more earthly fathers need to be like that. And to me, I feel that any man that is not teaching their daughter or is not taking care of their daughters, they're missing out. And they're doing not only their daughters a big disservice, but they're doing themselves a big disservice as well. So
Absolutely.
that's just my thoughts on that. That's just my thoughts.
I totally agree. And I look at sometimes, like you said, some of our young women, and I refer to them as my daughters, um, whether I gave birth to them or not, because biologically I have two sons,
Hmm.
and five grandsons.
Hmm.
Every time I say that, I'm like, good Lord, I'm sick of little boys. But anyway, I didn't give birth to any girls, but I have daughters of my heart. And I watch some of them, and it bothers me to see the way they disrespect themselves, and then they get disrespected because they're putting that disrespect out there. And I often say, what difference would it have made if they had had a strong father growing up? Because there are some things you're going to experience in life, we know that. But there's something about having a consistently strong father presence in your life that makes you realize I deserve to be treated a certain way. So I
Yes.
need to carry myself a certain way. And I totally agree with you that, it breaks my heart sometimes, some of the things I see them post on social media. Sometimes you see them out in the street and you just shake your head and you're like, this is why you're not getting any respect, because you're not even respecting yourself. And so I totally agree that that foundation of that father daughter relationship is so important. And like you say, that even though they mess up, even though they make a mistake, a real father will say, okay, so you got off track. You didn't do what you went out set out to do. Let's sit down and talk about how we can get you back on track. What is your heart? What is your passion? What is your goal? What is it you want to do? And let me see how I can help you to get back on track. That's what I think a real father does. Um, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, because just like we always talking about our spiritual father and how he shows us grace, we we need for our natural fathers to do the same thing, to show us grace and help us to get back on track.
Amen. Amen. And I agree with you. And for those fathers that are not doing what they're supposed to do for their daughters or even their sons, you got to think about what the word says. Children are a blessing and a gift from God. So why would you neglect a precious gift that God has given you? And there's lots of people in this world, they wish they could have children and they
Absolutely.
can't. They can't. So for whatever reason, they're not able to for whatever reason. So by God giving you a precious gift of a child, um, why would you not want to? Why would you not want to be in that child's life to cultivate and to speak life into that child, or to speak positivity into that child, and enjoy that child? To enjoy that child. Why would you? Why would you not want to? Why would you not want to enjoy that gift? Why would you not want to cope? Why would you not want to enjoy that gift?
Absolutely. And because it is a part of, it's a part of you. And like your
Yeah.
children are a part of you walking around in the earth. Why would you not want the best for them? And so I'm always impressed by, and I shared this, multiple times down through the years. My sister and I had talked about how we grew up in the house, with in a two parent household, and we had parents that were 100% involved in our life. And it took us well into our teen years before we realized that a lot of our friends didn't have that. It's like we just took it for granted, and we just, kind of, well, mom and dad are here, daddy's going to do this, mom's going to do that. And it took a long time for us to realize everybody didn't grow up with that. Um,
Right.
and so I've had even people say to me since I've been an adult that they don't think I realize just how blessed I am to have had that relationship with my father. But I do realize what a gift it was. And I'm sure your daughter would say the same thing. Now, let me ask you this question. Over time, the bond between a father and a daughter evolves. Um, I shared before how when I was like first grade or second grade, and they had the field day at the school, and my father was the only family member there, and all I kept thinking about that whole day was winning things so my dad would be proud of me. I didn't think about anything else that was going on. I just wanted my daddy to be proud. And so I got into this race, and I was running, 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 running. And I just knew, man, I'm going to win this thing. And I got almost to the finish line and I fell. Oh my God. And all I remember doing was looking up in the stand and seeing my dad. And I just broke down and cried. Just like people thought I would really hurt myself because I was crying so hard. But I was crying because I felt like I had disappointed my dad. So, of course, when I could get myself together, I ran over and jumped on my daddy's lap, and it's okay. He made it okay. But my question to you is, as time has evolved, as I evolved and I got older, um, I had mistakes. I had falls and failures and whatever in life. But and as I shared, a few minutes ago, it wasn't always easy for me to go to my dad, but I knew that I could. It wasn't the same as when I had fallen at the field day, but I could still go to my dad. Do you believe that the relationship between you and your daughter has evolved? And give us an example of how that relationship has evolved to where it is now.
Yes. Yeah, it's very much evolved. It evolved from the time that she was born up until now. Like I mentioned, she's 22 years old. So, when she was a small child, everything that my daughter did, I was there. I was involved in it. School, school stuff. Working at her school, volunteering at her school, I was there. Um, like I mentioned, father daughter dances. Every father daughter dance that her school had, or that she had in her school years, I was there. Every competition, every field day, I was there. I was involved with her, and I was there. Just like your dad was there for your field day, for your field days. So when I recognized that she was becoming a young lady, then that's when they're evolving. That's why I recognize the evolving, that this young lady, this little girl, is becoming a young woman. So I had to treat her differently than from when she was a little girl. Like for instance, one small thing that I had to do was when she became a teenager or preteen, There was days, there was a time where I used to just go into a room if I want her, or I just open the door. If she had the door closed, I open the door and say, "Hey, Faith, I need you for something." But as I recognized, well, my wife had to help me recognize that she was becoming a young woman. I got to the point where if a door is closed, I knock on the door and she'll tell me to come in because she was at a point where she was changing, her body was changing. She was getting more conscious about how she looked, and plus, I wanted to show her that your young lady now is respectful for a young man, for a man to knock on
Yes,
the door and just
yes.
don't barge in where you're at. So that's one of the things that I had to evolve in. When I recognized that she was becoming a young lady. Another thing was that I had to come to the realization that my little girl was no longer my little girl. My little girl was a young woman. And I got that realization when she was about to graduate out of high school and go off to college. And her and I, we was on one of our dates, and we was sitting down having ice cream like we always used to when she was little. And I had to explain to her that you're going away, and this will be you never been away from me like this before. I can't. Whenever you need something, I'm not a 30-minute drive away. You're gonna be 5 hours away in another state. So I asked her, you think you're gonna be all right? She was like, yeah, I'm gonna be fine. I was like, you sure? She was like, yeah, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. And so far, she's been making responsible decisions. And so when she became about 21, that's when I know that, okay, this girl she's a woman now. So I have to treat her like a woman, even though she's my daughter. And I tell her, hey, I don't care how old you be, you're still going to be my little girl. But at the same time, I have to recognize that she is a woman. She's a woman now.
Yeah,
So far, she's been making responsible decisions. She has, she's doing what she's supposed to do as a young lady. She's conducting herself as a lady. And not only is my impact, but it's definitely my wife's impact because, my wife could teach her stuff about being a lady that I cannot teach her. So, but my presence is as her father and a leader is to show her that, hey, you got support, you got strength. You have a protector in your corner in case you need something. I'm there.
yeah.
So that's how I recognize that our relationship was evolving. But she still could come to me for anything she wants, and I want to keep that open. That open. I want to keep those arms open where she can come to me for anything,
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad. And and that was one of the things that I want to do is keep that relationship and keep those doors open where she could come to me for anything. So that's how I recognize that our relationship evolved. She's no
Yeah.
longer the little girl; she's a woman now.
I love it. I love it. And at every step of her life journey, she needs to know that her daddy has her back. And
Yeah.
I'm sure she does. And I think that's a powerful statement. So as we're closing our conversation, I want to ask you, what is one piece of advice that you would give to fathers and daughters who are looking to strengthen their bond? I was talking with someone the other day and I said, my father is no longer here in the physical realm, but um, I still feel that closeness with him. And so she said, I never felt close to my dad. Like he was in the house, he made sure we had a roof over our head, he made sure we had food, but I never sat down and shared my heart with him or felt like I could talk with him. And as he's getting older now, I wish that had been different. And I want to figure out ways to make it better, excuse me, before he leaves here. So I don't know, not speaking just about that particular situation, but if you were talking to a father who says, I don't really have a strong relationship with my daughter that I would like to have, what is one piece of advice that you would give him?
Well, if a person was to do that, first of all, I would want to know, well, why? Why don't you have a good relationship with your daughter? And once I find that out, I would tell him, well, I'm a firm believer in this. As long as you're living and breathing, as long as you have life in your body, it's never too late. It's never
Yes.
too late. It's never too late for redemption. It's never too late to make things right. Um, the, I think that any person that has the chance or that has life in them, they should be able to make it right. Do find out what the problem is, and then find out what the problem is and work it out. Because every person's situation is different. So it's hard for me to tell a person what they should do. The only thing I could tell them is find out what the root of the problem is.
Yeah.
It could be whatever. It could be something as small as the father don't didn't have the courage to talk to his daughter for whatever reason, or
Right. Right.
it could be abuse. It could be something else. It could be something traumatic. It could be something I don't know, but find out what the root of the problem is and then work it out. If you need counseling, then go to counseling.
Yeah.
Go to counseling. It doesn't hurt to go to counseling or to talk to somebody to help you with your problem. That's what counselors are there for. So
Absolutely.
that is what I would advise a father who doesn't have a relationship with their daughter for whatever reason. Find out what the root of the problem is and work it out. See if you can find a solution to it.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you can see the comments or not, but one of my friends commented that it is important for us to know that our Father is important to us forever.
Yes,
And even though your daughter is going away to school, whatever, that dynamic will change with regard to you seeing her every day, all day. But she still needs to know that my daddy's there and he's important to me. And
yes,
so I think my friend also says that one important piece of advice to fathers, especially younger fathers, is to show up. Like, I don't really care what the situation is between you and your baby's mom and all of that drama. Your children, your daughters especially, need to know that you're there. You don't have to be married to their mother to be a part of their lives, and they need to know that no matter what, my daddy is there. There's a lot of trauma that women, even my age, carry because of bad relationships or no relationships with their fathers. And I just wanted to use this month to address the importance of that bond because I personally could talk about it every day because of the relationship I have with my dad. But I do know so many of my sisters and my spiritual daughters that didn't have that relationship, and so I think it's very important. Another guest commented that addressing the root of the problem is so important, like you said, because for many of the daddy daughter trauma comes from failures to communicate. Like we haven't really talked about what is causing us not to be able to get along. So, like you said, getting to the root of the problem is extremely important.
and you know what, Jamie is. I thank the viewers for the comments, and you know what, Jamie, I have to say that I have gained so many bonus children. My sons and daughters' friends. So many bonus children over the years where I use my daughter. Since we're talking about daughters, I use my daughter as an example. My daughter was involved in so many activities um, during her school, especially high school, and I was at every um, game or every competition at, that she was in. And I was one of maybe three fathers there out of about maybe 15 girls.
Yeah,
So, so, and my wife and I, we treat them as our children. We made sure that, like, they had stuff before competitions, or they had stuff during competitions,
Right,
or they
right,
or they had stuff after competitions. Um, and by me being at every competition that they had, they kind of gravitated to my wife and I as, like a second set of parents
right,
who was
right.
at my daughter's competition, because like you said, or I believe you said this earlier, where there were kids that their parents don't even come to competitions. They don't
That's
show up
correct.
for whatever reason, but they don't show up. But we were there,
Yes,
and like I said, I've gained so many bonus kids over the years that, but I love doing it, and I love that they look at me as like their dad or their second dad, because a lot of them, they have dads in the home, but a lot of them may not have dads in the home for whatever reason. But like you
right.
said, if a father's around, that father still, even though him and the mother are not to the child's mother are not together for whatever reason, the dad still should be in the child's life, no matter
Yeah,
what, to be able to cultivate and teach, and to show the little girl how to be treated like a lady. So it's still needed.
absolutely, absolutely. And so, as I was saying to you and to our guests who are listening in, this is why I felt like this conversation is so important, because we have got to stop pointing outward and blaming other people, other ethnicities, other communities for some of the problems that we're having in our community, because
Yes.
there's so many voids and vacancies that need to be filled in our own communities, and we need to address those. And so this is why I really wanted to talk about the father-daughter situation, because I just see it all the time. Um,
Yes.
and because I raised boys, and like you say, I was like at every basketball game. I was at the AAU tournaments. I was here, there, and everywhere. And I saw very few fathers there. And when I just couldn't process that, because anything that I was involved in when I was younger, my dad was there. And so I wanted to just remind all of the young women who will listen to this, all of the other older women, um, that are playing mother roles in these lives, to remind the men in your life as well that these girls need them. All right. It's a sad time that we're in a society that looks at the male and female relationship in such a negative way. Even when it comes to fathers and daughters, people have such suspicious minds about things. But we have to do what we know that God has created us to do. And so tonight, I want to thank you so much for taking time to join me tonight. I look forward to having you back on the podcast. And I want to close with this. One of my friends just commented that there's statistics that link certain mental health behaviors to a lack of fathering. And I absolutely believe that. My sister is a mental health professional, and she deals with children in Philadelphia, children who are in the system. And she tells me stories, without giving me names or whatever, of how so many of the girls did not have their fathers, and they they're very angry about that, because they feel like he should have been there. So I want to personally salute you for the job that you've done and that you continue to do with your daughter and your son, and just tell you I appreciate you. I really do.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the time and your platform to talk about this. And like I said, yeah, this is one subject that it needs to be talked about more. And there's a need right now for a lot of our little girls to be guided correctly by great men. And I just want to say this, for the ladies that are raising um daughters, if the father's not doing it, what about an uncle? What about a grandfather, a strong grandfather? Because I have a friend that didn't have a good, well, had a traumatic relationship with her father, but she mentioned that her grandfather
Yes.
was a real man who taught, her about love and how to be treated. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a dad. It could be an uncle, it could be a grandfather, it could be a godfather.
That's right. That's right.
Long as it's a positive male role model, long as it's a positive
Absolutely.
person.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it is so true. I have a very good friend of mine who was raised by her grandfather. And so, yeah, that is so important. I'm glad you mentioned that. So, again, I want to thank you for joining me. And I will definitely have you back on on the platform to have some more conversations. And you have a great evening. And to those of you who have joined us, we appreciate you so much. One of my friends said to make sure to say thank you, sir, for joining us tonight. And we will see you hopefully very soon.
Okay, just let me know when, and God bless.
God bless you as well. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you. You
All
too.
right. Okay. Good night.
Good night.